Starlink recently decreased the power consumption of Starlink antennas by about 25%, and nobody seems to be talking about this. I haven't seen it in the media, I haven't seen it discussed in any of the online Starlink communities, and I noticed it a couple weeks ago, so I thought I'd make a video going over these changes because they're quite significant. I check my Starlink app pretty often as a Starlink enthusiast and content creator, so I've gotten to know how much power my Starlink typically uses. I have a Gen 3 standard dish mounted on my roof, and that provides my primary home internet. So normally I see between 45 and 47 watts of power consumption reported by the Starlink app, and that's been that way for years. I've had this dish installed since I think December of 2023. But in the last couple of weeks, I've noticed a change. My power consumption went from around 47 watts average to less than 35 watts. And at first, I thought it was maybe a bug or a glitch in the Starlink app, so I didn't really pay any attention to it. But then I was doing a battery bank review, and I noticed the same thing happen on my Starlink Mini. That led me to do a little bit more digging, and I was able to find out that Starlink did release a software update sometime in December or early January that decreased the idle power consumption of Starlink antennas by around 25%. So I wasn't going crazy and it wasn't a bug in the Starlink app. Starlink antennas just now use less power than they did before, significantly less power. I took it a step further for this video though, because I remembered that I have another Gen 3 standard dish, exactly like the one that's on my roof, in storage. And since it was in storage, it hadn't been receiving software updates. So this one was on an older version from around September, before these power efficiency improvements were delivered via a software update. So I should be able to plug in my old one and then compare it directly against the Gen 3 standard that's on my roof that has the newer software version. And what I found was pretty interesting. So if I go into the Starlink app, I can look at my standard home unit. This is the one that's gotten the recent software version that includes the power efficiency upgrades. And if I go into statistics here and go to power draw, you can see that I'm averaging around 33 watts average for this antenna, which is a lot lower than it was before. So remember that number, 33 watts. Now let's go and look at my other unit that I set up that hasn't had a software update. And if I go into that one, this one's called Standard Light on my Starlink app, you can see that it's got a software update pending, but the software, the version that it's on is from around September. And if I go into statistics and power draw, again, just like we did with the other dish, notice this one is running at 44 watts average. So quite a difference there. And the only difference between these two systems, remember, is the software version. So 44 watts versus 33 watts, that's around a 25% difference. So through a software update, Starlink has lowered the idle power consumption by around 25%, which is really, really significant. And this doesn't apply to just the standard dish. This also applies to the Mini. And that's actually where I first noticed this. I kind of discovered this power efficiency change on accident because I was testing a power bank and doing a battery runtime test. Specifically, I was checking out the Peak 2 Link Power 2 and comparing it against the Link Power 1. Now I did a review of the Link Power 1 many months ago, and in that review, I noticed that my Starlink Mini had a power consumption of around 23 watts average. And I compared that to my review of the Link Power 2, which I did the other week, where my Starlink Mini was running at around 17 watts average. So 23 versus 17 is a big difference in terms of percentage. That's a 25% improvement in the idle power consumption of the Starlink Mini. And remember, this is the only difference between those two is a software update version. No hardware changes, no other configuration changes at all. So it looks like Starlink has improved power efficiency by about 25% across at least the standard and the Mini antenna just through a software update. Now for home internet users, it might not seem like such a big deal. I mean, if you're on the grid, who cares if your Starlink uses 30 watts or 50 watts, right? But if you do the math on this with an average electricity cost of around 15 cents per kilowatt hour, this change actually saves the average homeowner about $14 per year. The real impact though is for those mobile off-grid applications. Like if you're using the Starlink Mini, for example, that 25% power efficiency improvement means longer run times on your existing batteries. And I saw that with my recent review of the Peak 2 1 versus Peak 2 2, where the runtime improved significantly because of that 25% decrease in power consumption of the Starlink Mini. Another change that I'm noticing is the difference between an idle Starlink dish, which has no network activity, versus one that has some network activity like active uploading or downloading on your devices. So previously, back when my Starlink was running at around the 44 watt average or so, when I would do a download or an upload of a file on my Starlink connection, it didn't really change the power consumption at all. You couldn't really tell that you were doing anything. It just always stuck around that 44 to 47 watt range. With this software update, I'm noticing that the difference between idle network and an active network is a little bit different. So when my Starlink is idling, when there's no network activity going on, it sits around that 33 watt range. But if I start doing some downloading or uploading or streaming a movie or something like that, then I notice my power consumption tick up by a few watts. So it could go anywhere from like 37 to 40 watts instead of that 33 watt average. But it still never gets back up to the previous average that it was before. So what that tells me is that yes, the idle power consumption has improved when you have no throughput on your connection, but also the power efficiency has improved when you do have network activity and throughput on your network. What I didn't do for this video is break out some of my other Starlink units like my Gen 2 standard actuated or my Gen 1 or even my newest performance dish. So I'm unable to confirm if this change applies to all Starlink dishes like those other ones as well, but that's where I'm going to ask for your help. So if you have a Starlink unit, break out your Starlink app and check the statistics, specifically the power draw, and let me know what your average is over the last 15 minutes. So go down to the comment section and tell me what Starlink model that you have and what your average power consumption is right now. That way we can kind of gather some more information and see if this is a widespread change for every Starlink dish out there, or if this just applies to the newest standard and mini dishes. So that's it for this video. It's pretty typical of Starlink to make a big change like this, a big improvement, and not tell anybody about it. So I really wanted to make this video and let you know what was going on, because 25% decrease in power consumption is a big change and it should be celebrated. So great job, Starlink team, for doing this over a software update without really anybody even knowing. You're lowering people's electricity bills, you're increasing the runtime when your Starlink is powered off of a battery, and all that was done over the air through a software update, probably in the middle of the night for most people. If you found this video helpful or informative, consider subscribing to the channel. Make sure you also like and share this video so others can discover it as well. Always appreciate you guys watching and supporting the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.
Oh boy, where do we do let's do it right here. Got a little Starlink party going on here.